Hello and welcome to the channel. So do you remember a couple of years ago, before I went on a short career break, I did a video about the decline of the Welsh language, and I said that how the Welsh government, the Senedd, is looking at the Welsh language from skewed figures, because as we've seen via the National Census data, which is the Office of National Statistics data, that comes out once every 10 years, we've actually seen the Welsh language in decline. This is the number of people that can actually speak the language fluently. So whether it's they read, they write, and they speak the language, right? And it's gone from 21% of the population, Welsh speakers in Wales, to 17, I think, 0.8% of the population, right? Now that's a damning indictment, really, of a fact that we're supposedly now self-governing since 1999. And you then have to ask yourself, how on earth can we go from 21% of the population to 17.8% of the population? So in my last video, I showed how they try and skew the figures to try and make out that actually it's closer to 33% of the population that can speak Welsh. And they did that back around 10 years ago, but actually the census data, which is independent of what the Senedd do, the Office of National Statistics, shows that the language is in decline. And it's all to do with the education system. It's simply to do with how children are taught in our schools. Now in Wales, we have two sets of schools. We've got our Welsh-speaking schools and we've got our English-speaking schools. Now you could almost argue that in the Welsh-speaking schools, 99% of the children come out of those schools speaking Welsh and obviously speaking English, because English is the lingua franca really of Wales, okay, of the majority of Wales. And it's obviously the dominant language of the island that we live on. Therefore, Wales, even though it's the national language, is spoken by a minority predominantly in the rural areas where they've held on to that language. Now, through the medium of the education system, what you have is a dual language school system where a lot of people will decide to send their children to an English speaking school. That's where 90% of the schooling is taught in the English language. Welsh at the moment is actually taught around 10% of the time, but it's taught as not in an immersive way, all right? And what they do as well is they don't capture the critical point of when children learn the language, which is the ages of 4 to 6. Now, in my last video, I said I'm going to compare it to a country called Luxembourg. If you don't know Luxembourg, here we are, is a bit of a wiki page. It's a small, tiny little country, right in, if I go in there, right in the middle of Europe, down near France. All right. Oh, God, I can't get to it now. Oh, there we go. And there it is, tiny, tiny little place. It's absolutely tiny. It's straddling Germany and it's straddling France. It's got Belgium just next to it as well. Now, it's a multi-language country, right? It speaks multiple languages. The official language is Luxembourgish. Luxembourgish is actually a Germanic language. Okay, so what is Germanic language? It's, well, you could argue English is a Germanic language. Dutch is a Germanic language. Swedish, Norwegian, Danish, Icelandic, German, they're all Germanic languages, yeah? But the language in day-to-day, the dominant language of Luxembourg is actually French. Now, I worked in Luxembourg for 6 months. I used to travel out to Luxembourg. And when I was in Luxembourg City, it felt like a French city. It really felt like a French city, okay? And I used to say, well, apparently Luxembourgish is the national language, so where am I hearing that to? And basically, it's a language of administration. So if you go on TV, listen to the parliamentary people speak, they speak in Luxembourgish. If you go and deal with the council, it's predominantly they try and do it in Luxembourgish before they do it in French. So it's the predominantly main language. French is the language of everyday use. Luxembourgish is the official language. That can apply to Wales. You cannot say, for the majority of the population, English is the everyday language, but it's not our actual national language. Welsh is the national language. So what do they do correctly? How do they get children speaking multiple languages. Well, let's look at this website, which is actually from their ministry itself, education system. And they'll just tell you. They'll say here, so what we do, it's a plurilingual education system. For children ages 1 to 4 is available for all education and care services, okay? All right, young children are put in contact with Luxembourgish and French in a playful way. What does that mean? So if you go to school and look at 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, they don't actually do proper learning. I think it's when they get to the age of 6 they actually do proper learning. But the ages of 3, 4, 5, they do what they call interactive play. Now, what the Luxembourgish do is they understand that they've got to try and immerse children. And so you could come from a French-speaking household, never really used the Germanic language of Luxembourgish, but how do you get children speaking that language? So they talk about it here. They talk about the cycle. So they cycle 1, 3 to 5, implements a pluralistic approach focusing on Luxembourgish and French, while promoting children's mother tongues. You can have children speaking other languages, okay? Luxembourgish is used as a language for daily communication, while several activities are organised in French, okay? Now, I'm going to speak about this more in my third video, but what really they should be doing in Wales is they should be using, at that age, 3 to 5, which is, I think in Wales we call it nursery, at age 3 to 4, and then from 4 to 5 we call it reception. What they should be doing is at least one full day a week, at least one to start off. It's just to start off with immersion Welsh. What that means is that the teachers will only try and speak Welsh to the children. Now, the teachers don't even themselves have to be fluent Welsh, because they can learn enough of the language to apply as much Welsh as possible. So what they're doing is, the way they teach Welsh to kids in school at the moment is they'll say a sentence in English, and then they'll tell the kids what that sentence is in Welsh, and they have to repeat it. That's not immersive teaching. Immersive teaching is you just speak the language. So you would just speak Welsh to the kids. Now, for the first several weeks, let's say they do it every Wednesday, they speak Welsh in school. At that age, the teachers will just speak Welsh to them. What that means, for the first several weeks, the children won't have a clue, but their brains are wired that they quickly start picking up the language. Yeah, it's just in the way the parents speak the language to the children pick it up. It's the critical period of language learning. If you don't do it at this age, which is what the Luxembourgish are doing, then you really risk not doing it at all. And the problem is with Wales, we get things so badly wrong. We just do, don't we? We just spend billions and millions of pounds on these. We're going to have 1 million kids speaking Welsh or whatever in 2050, but the way they're doing it is completely backwards. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, just go and speak to the Luxembourgish education system, and they'll tell you how they do it here. Okay. Now, actually, in Luxembourg, they speak three languages. Right, so they actually say 3 because they also have German as an official language as well. So here they actually teach children when they get 6 to 11 to start speaking in German. So can you imagine that, speaking Luxembourgish, French and German in their weekly classrooms, right? So my proposal is, really, I'll speak about it in more in the third video, but really, I mean, why can't they just get kids in English language schools to do between the ages of 3 to 5, right? At least 3 to 5, to do at least one day immersion Welsh, right? So you can imagine that from the moment the kids arrive in school to the moments they leave, the teachers and assistants are trying to speak to the children only in Welsh. All right, so everything in Welsh, only in Welsh. Where you've got a very anglicised part of Wales, maybe where you've got very low numbers of Welsh speakers, well, maybe then we can have Welsh assistants on them days. So you have Welsh speaking assistants on them days to speak to the children in nursery and reception. The children will, in a 2-year period, by speaking just that language to them for just one day a week, right, will result in the children becoming fluent by the time they get to 6 and 11. Right, that's the critical period. This is exactly what the Luxembourgish do. It's what the Swiss do because they're multi-language. We in Wales, no, we don't go down that route. The Senedd aren't bothered about that. They're coming up with these harebrained ideas, paying consultants millions of pounds when they simply just have to maybe go to this website and steal some ideas. And it makes you really think, doesn't it? So it's a bit of an eye opener. If you're a Welsh speaker, you may think, wow, okay, well, if you're an English speaker and you want your children to learn Welsh in an English speaking medium school, then really this is the only way they can do it. And the critical ages are 3 to 5. Right? Once children are 3 to 5, you can actually reduce the amount of Welsh taught to them in school, because by that age they've achieved near fluency. All right. So once they get to the ages like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, you can reduce that from 20, 25% of teaching in Welsh down to 10, 15%. All right. So it's just an eye opener, isn't it? How other countries operate and how we do things so badly in Wales. Next video will be coming soon. We're going to talk more about what we think the Senedd could do in order to implement and adopt some of these policies. And we'll look at it in more detail using some of the structures that the Welsh government have in place. But equally, we'll talk about these harebrained ideas they're coming up with about getting 1 million people speaking Welsh. At the end of the day, all they've got to do is concentrate on that age group, and we will have a nation that's fluent within a generation or two. Anyway, we'll speak about that soon. Bye.